Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this webinar to demonstrate two new features available in TotalControl 3.3.5 and later that provides enhanced configuration views for Design Studio users. To start things off, we will first take a look at the Binding Elements view, which users have traditionally had access to from the page properties under Binding Points. When this form is opened, it displays a list of all bindable elements on the page along with their pertinent details. Starting in TotalControl version 3.3.5, this same form is still available, however the properties for each element are now editable. Users may change any of the properties listed here except the element name and save them back to the page in order to make editing and verification easier. Switching gears a little, we'll move on to the primary subject of this webinar, which is enhanced table views. Table views have been available in TotalControl for groups of objects like inputs or outputs, however they are traditionally limited by three primary issues. 1. Because of the BTL Advanced Workstation certification, they are crowded by a complete list of all available properties for the list of displayed objects. 2. They are limited to displaying one object type from a device, for example inputs or outputs. And 3rd, the displayed data is read-only. The enhanced table views available in TotalControl version 3.3.5 and later resolve all three of these issues as well as add some additional value. Let's start by looking at the input objects of a VAV controller. In this table, users may make changes to any writable property by selecting the value, making the desired change, then clicking the Save Changes button. Users may also customize what is displayed by right-clicking a column or row and selecting Hide, or using the selections under the View menu for Select Visible Rows or Select Visible Columns. Once a user has customized the layout for any given object group, they may save the layout as their default by opening the View menu and selecting Save. In this example, we will hide everything except the object ID, name, and present value, then save the layout. Once that is done, this layout will become the default every time a group of inputs is opened. Enhanced table views also support auto-refreshing at a configurable interval which can be enabled or disabled in the upper right corner of the table. In order to reduce the amount of network traffic generated by this process, users may select which columns auto-refresh through the right-click menu or through the Select Auto-Refresh Rows and Columns menus available under the View menu. Columns configured for auto-refresh are indicated by light blue headers. In the shown example, only the present value property is configured for auto-refresh and is the only property retrieved during the refresh process. Opening table views for large groups of objects will generate a significant amount of network traffic. Users should be aware of this and set the auto-refresh interval to an appropriate value that allows TotalControl enough time to gather the requested data before refreshing again. Aside from viewing the default groupings of objects like inputs or outputs, users may also create their own table views that contain a mix of any objects from any devices that are located in either Network Manager or Resource Manager. We will demonstrate this by opening the File menu and selecting New, then opening Table View. Once this new table view is open, we can populate it with objects in two different ways. One method is to drag objects from Network Manager or Resource Manager and drop them into the table view. This is the simplest method, but it requires users to locate each desired object in the trees and drop them in one by one. The second method is much more powerful but requires users to create object path strings. To demonstrate this, we will start with a blank table view, open the View menu, and select Edit Object Paths. We then click the Add button to open the Object Path Builder. Object paths are built from the ground level and may include wildcards. Users may manually type in the desired path, however the Object Path Builder also provides suggestions in the lower half of the window so users may double-click available results to build a path string. For example, we will start by selecting NM for Network Manager, followed by BACnet Service. Say for example we want to look at the room temperature for all devices that contain the text VAV in their name. So next we enter VAV, then an asterisk, followed by a backslash, and then the text room temp. In the suggestion box we can see that the desired points have been targeted and we can click OK to add them. Now although there were 10 points that appeared in the suggestion box, this is a wildcard path, so it will only appear as one object path. Now we can click OK to return to the table view, and Design Studio will begin retrieving the data for the points that we targeted. We can then tailor this view by hiding properties that we are not interested in. In this example, we are only interested in present value. You'll notice that the first column that lists the target objects is not very helpful in this case, since all of the selected objects have the same name. We can add some clarity to that by opening the View menu and unselecting the option for Hide Paths. That will configure the table to show the full path of the objects in the first column instead of just the names, so we can now see which points belong to which device. When the desired object list and layout are finished, we can open the View menu and select Save As. The save location will default to the Resource Manager. However, the table views may be saved to any location and reopened for later use. It is important to note that table views are not project or database specific, so if we opened a different project and opened the same table view, it would select all matching points from the active current network. That will conclude this webinar for today. Thank you again for your time, and please contact us if you need more information about TotalControl or any other KMC products.